Hi there, and thank you for joining me. I'm Keith from Your Success, and I help people reach their full potential through coaching and motivational mapping. Again, thank you very much for joining me today. And before we start, let me give some context this talk, because you're probably looking at it thinking, "Oh my gosh, why failure can be good for you? Why is that a thing? Why is that a topic? Why do I need to know this?" Um, Let me give you some examples before we get into the course, the presentation. Um, Working with your personal training and backed up by your academy, you have every possible tool and path to enable you to be successful through the training programs, through the recordings and webinars that you can attend, but also through the incredible mentors and people that have been there and done it and been successful, that are there to support you every single step of the way. But when you're surrounded by that kind of success and you're given all the information to be able to find a successful path forward, one of the things you don't always come up against or even think about is that the people that are sharing, the people that are there to help you, have, as well, have enjoyed massive success, they probably come across failure, losses, and so on and so forth. But it's given them the opportunity to learn and become bigger and stronger and better at what they're doing, which they're then able to pass on and share with others. And today's presentation isn't to kind of like poo-poo it or scare you. It's just basically to say, look, do you know what? You are going to be set up for success. But if something happens that you're not expecting, you don't want, or you fail, or you feel like you've lost one day, it's okay, because you can take so much from it in terms of lessons, positive opportunities, and even finding a way, a path that doesn't work for you. So let's find something else that do. So on those days when you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is not working, am I right for this? You can stop for a minute and go, hang on a second, what's the value that I can take from today? What's the value I can take from this lesson that I'm currently being shown? And you kind of see it as more of a gift than a setback. And that's what today's presentation is about. So please join me on this, focus, take notes. And at the end of it, as always, you're welcome to send me a message and ask questions to kind of go with it. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to get into this now, if that's okay. And the key thing with this, more than anything else, is finding a starting point. And what you've got to look at, first of all, is how you view failure, or even how at the times the world views failure. Now, do you see it as something negative that you don't want to be associated with? Well, if that's the case, then you are like most people in the world. They don't like failure, but there's always something to see as a positive. Okay. And very often, after you see a team on television and the coach or the manager comes out and says, do you know what? Yeah, we got beaten. We're going to take the positives from the game. You look at something, what positives? But if you're able to take something back to the training ground, back to your desk or whatever, wherever it happens to be, and look at what's happened and what can I do differently next time, that's where you can take the positive. And that's what we're going to look at here. Okay. But it's all about how you start to view failure. And this is something really important. It's a statistic. I'm not going to throw too many stats into this today, but believe it or not, fear of failure is the main reason that 80% of people in the world are not prepared to change their circumstances, which means they get stuck and they often don't achieve all they could because there's that fear of, what if I don't? What if it fails? And what I want you to think about today is, if it fails, great. I found one path that it's not right for me. I need to try something different. But here's the thing, why do people fear failure so much? And the reason for this is most people just don't understand the dynamics involved in success and failure. And the thing that you'll find is it's not always a clear path to success. Sometimes there'll be a failure or a couple of failures in the way to get you to be successful, but it's just an opportunity to learn. Yeah. Okay. So that's what we're kind of looking at. Now, whatever you do, whether it is with personal training and client development and support, or anything else in life, there's always going to be a right and a wrong way. Now, it can vary from individuals, but generally speaking, there's a right and a wrong way of doing things. So everything we do in life, as I said, if you do things the right way, you're going to meet with success. Yep. But if things don't go the right way, you find a different path, or it's the wrong thing, guess what? You're not going to be successful. But understanding that is important because it puts failure into proper perspective and removes all the fear around it. Each time you fail, you find another way not to do things. but it steers you on a path to trying something different. And that's where, as I said, where 80% of people don't move forward is because they fear that change and they keep knocking on the door that maybe isn't the right one. Yeah, cool. So let's continue. So when someone who doesn't understand this dynamic meets with that temporary failure, or even thinks about giving up, or starts thinking they're not good enough or they're never going to make it, is that right? Is that correct? Does the fact that you don't make it the first time mean you're not good enough? I spend a lot of my time with my work helping people realize that they are good enough and they are enough, but maybe there's something different, a different way they can move to get to be successful. And here's the thing, it doesn't mean you're not going to be successful. It just means there's a different path. All it means is you've not found the correct method yet. And that's what it's about. And I'm not going to use the word journey too much, but that is what it's about. It's about finding the right things to do, the things that work for you. And sometimes you've got to test the water. Sometimes you've got to fail before you succeed. Yeah. So what do you do next if it doesn't go quite to plan? You go back and you try to find out where you went wrong. What steps did I take? And what maybe could I change, do differently or correct for next time? Then what you do is you try employing a different method and seeing if that brings you more success or change. And if for some reason that doesn't work, you go back and look at everything that you've done so far. You talk to the successful people who are around you, the mentors that you've got, the people that are doing well. See what they've done to be successful in that area to pick up some tips and then see if you can implement yourself. But then what it allows you to do is think of what you might have left out. So guess what? You move forward and you try again. And here's the thing, this is a quote from Napoleon Hill. Every failure, every adversity, and every heartache carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. So what's that failure and how can you allow yourself to learn and move forwards? Yeah. Now, every successful person that you see, whether it is someone within the personal training industry, someone with your personal training, a mentor, every successful person has had to overcome some kind of temporary defeat at one time or another. You need to know this. Yeah. And here's the thing, you've probably heard it before, you haven't really failed until you accept defeat, until you give up. If you envy those that seem to get success easily, you're seeing what's on the surface. There's all sorts of stuff underneath. 80% of success is behind the scenes. But here's the thing, success earned in spite of earlier failure is so much sweeter because you've had to learn, you've had to be resilient, you've had to move forward. And I'll give you an example of this, okay? If you take two people that are traveling to the same destination, but with one difference, one takes a route by aeroplane, another takes a journey by the car, okay? So the person on the aeroplane is just going to have a straightforward flight, land, fantastic, wonderful. But the one traveling by car has a few breakdowns, has a few setbacks, really has to look at where they're going and understand their route. If you then take those two individuals back to their original starting position and say, okay, find your way back to that destination, who do you think is going to remember the road better for next time? You know the answer straight away. Not only is it on the screen, but it makes sense. The person who had the breakdowns, the person who traveled on the road, because they've had the opportunity to stop, look around, assess things, and know the path to take again or differently or to improve. Make sense? Cool. So let's add to this. Here's the thing, why failure is good. Now, we know this, we see it everywhere. In life, in business, in sports, in the industry we're in. We live in a competitive society that has big winners, but also big losers. Now, you'll see educators, motivation experts, life coaches, sports psychologists, and other mentors that you come across will teach us how to approach success, how to be winners. Nothing wrong with that. It's great. But the valuable lesson in being able to cope with a loss, cope with a failure is super important. Take on all the successful advice, great. But there's no harm in finding out what were the struggles to get there, what were the things you had to learn, what were the barriers you faced, where did you fail? And the cool thing is when you come across them yourself, yes, they're going to happen. Yes, they're going to set you back, but you know what? You're prepared for them and you can see the value in them rather than seeing them as a terrifying thing that you're never going to get past. It's a setback. It allows you to learn and move forward. That's the way you have to look at these things. So there's all sorts of things we can look at in terms of experience, failure, advantages. And what we're going to talk about is, why is it necessary to fail? Um, it's a stepping stone. And what I want to kind of show you over the next part of the presentation, 5 very powerful life lessons that failure helps to teach and instill in you. Things that become ingrained. Not only does it make the success even sweeter, but what it does, it just allows you to learn, grow, and become maybe even a person that's not present right now. Someone you didn't even think you could be. So here's the thing. The first lesson is experience. What happens when we fail? We go through something and we can't walk away. We can, excuse me, we can work away with first-hand experience. It helps us to develop a deeper understanding for life and the challenges that comes with it. The experience of failing at something is so valuable. It completely alters our frame of mind through the induction of pain. So here's something I'd like to avoid next time. So what can I do differently? It makes you braver to go out and try something different. Don't forget, 80% of people stay where they are because of that fear of failure. Be the 20%. Let's increase that ratio to a better one. But it makes us reflect on the real nature of things and their importance in our lives, transforming and improving to our future selves. As I said, it's possibly a version of yourself that's not yet present. It's something you'll look back on in 6 months and think, oh my goodness, how much have I grown from that experience? But that brings you to the second lesson, knowledge. Now, the knowledge that you get can be harnessed for future to overcome the next failure. The thing that inflicted the past pain, you can now avoid and do something different. Nothing can replace the knowledge gained from failure. And you've probably come across this particular individual, a very famous inventor, Thomas Edison. Before he was able to create the commercially viable light bulb, it took him nearly 10,000 times, 10,000 failures to be successful. But every single time it failed, he gained the knowledge of just another avenue that didn't work. So it steered him on the path, something completely different. It's all accumulated knowledge. Now, I'm not saying I want you to fail 10,000 times, far from it, but being determined, knowing that you can learn, will allow you to move yourself forward and succeed. What that gives you is the third lesson, resilience. Now, the more you fail, the more you're resilient you will become. To be successful, you have to know and have to have resilience, because if we think that we're going to succeed on the first try, some people do, but it's more likely it's going to take a few tries, maybe even more, then we set ourselves up for more painful failure. Okay. Resilience and what it does for us is breed success by setting the game up to win. Okay. We keep being determined, we keep learning, we keep moving forward. So what it means, it changes the expectations that things are going to happen overnight, which for a lot of people, they won't succeed because they think it's not happening straight away. It's not working for me, therefore I give in. So once you can let that expectation go and know it's going to be time, effort, and allow yourself the time to be successful, that brings true success. But it comes with work and it comes with effort. Okay. Now that work and effort can be pleasurable if you've got the right mindset towards it. The fourth lesson is growth. Now, when we fail, we grow, we mature as people. We reach deeper meanings and understands about our lives and why we're doing the things that we're doing, why we're passionate about something, why we want to help people, why we want to help ourselves. But it helps you to reflect on things and bring them into perspective, developing meaning from any painful situation. This is the thing that people sometimes forget. Life is built around us growing and improving. Life becomes very boring when you're just staying still. Even when you're successful, you want to keep moving forward. Life is about growth. Everything from, within our genetics, within everything, single fiber, we're all about growth. And here's the thing, into the very fabric of our society, growth is a fundamental part of everything and all of us and what we do. Without growth, you can't improve life on every single front. And sometimes the lessons you learn in one area will help steer a path in other areas of your life as well. Friendships, relationships, everything. Okay. Even being happy. And the fifth lesson is value. Now, this can be one of the biggest lessons if you let it. If you learn from life's failures, you can create and spread an exceedingly high amount of value to yourself and others around you. Think of sometimes the clients you look after. Things haven't always worked out for them. You have to find another path for them. That's something we do naturally for others. It's the same for yourself. The value lies at the heart of success, and lack of value is a fundamental pillar to failure. Think about that. When you think about your past failures, think about how much value you brought to the table. But then start to think about, could you have offered more value now that you've learned the lesson? And when you learn to create immense value and do so consistently, you will succeed. That is the one thing I do know. Yeah. Okay. So we talked about some lessons, but also want to talk about how you can recover from failure as well. And there's lots of ways that you can recover from failure. Sometimes it's having people around you, sometimes it's mindset. But once you understand what failure is and how it's meant to serve you rather than hinder you, you free up your mind and you open your heart to experience the joy of failure. It's like, do you know what? Didn't go to plan. Right. What have I learned? You actually look forward to it because every failure brings you closer to success. And when you're going through failure, it's hard to recognize the importance of it. It's that lesson. So I'm going to give you 6 steps which will allow you to move forward and grow stronger. Okay. So step 1, ignore the naysayers. When you fail, there's going to be people telling you, I told you so. You should have listened to me, because maybe that's what they enjoy. That's where they get their pleasure sometimes. Ignore it. Living a life that's completely safe at all time isn't living. There has to be an element of risk. There has to be an element of trying something else. Yeah. That's when you start to remove that fear of failure. The second step, understand it is okay to fail. One of the best ways to recover from failure is to understand it's quite all right to do that. Okay. You don't want to do it every single day, but if you can take failure and really take the value from it and learn from it, you will be able to move forward. Okay. If you were to conduct any number of searches on the website or through social media, you'll find countless stories about people who have failed, but they're the most successful people you could possibly come across. It's okay to fail. It's not okay to give up. Even if you have failed, that failure was extremely painful. Keep going. Keep failing over and over again if you have to, but keep on doing it until you succeed. Success will taste all the sweeter when you get there. Push forward. Don't give up. It's quite possibly and probably is the best way to recover from failure. Not anything, having anything hold you back. And remember, it's not true failure unless you throw in the towel wholeheartedly and give up forever. Take a break if you need to, take a breather, but come back stronger. Third step, realize it's okay to fail. There is a difference here. Although failure symbolizes pain, and we'll do all we can, it's human nature to avoid pain and protect ourselves, you will gain pleasure when you're able to realize that it's okay to fail. When you get that failure, you see the importance that is played in your life and in the life of the most successful people around you, it's easier to reach that understanding. It will take you on a journey, that's for sure. But it will take you on a journey. At times you think, do I really want to go on it? And the idea is, yes, you do. The reality of the situation is that these journeys will help to mold and shape you into a better person. Yeah. Stronger, better equipped to deal with things, ready to learn lessons, but also ready to enjoy that success and celebrate the little successes along the way. Recovering from failure becomes far more effortless with the knowledge and experience that failure comes when you've got it under your belt. There is simply, and this is the truth, no way forward in life without having to experience a loss or a failure of some sort. Yeah. And I'm sure when you think back at times, you think about things where things haven't gone quite to plan. Look at the person you are now from those lessons that you've learned. We don't do enough of that sometimes. So I'm going to encourage you at the end of this, stop for a moment, look at what you've learned from the things that didn't go right for you, the things that you didn't enjoy, the things that you saw as a failure. Look how far you've come, but then continue to learn from those lessons. Fourth step, using failure as leverage. This is a good way not only to recover from failure, but to help elevate you, propel you forward in the future. It's a phenomenal platform, failure, for growth that's simply just not matched. And what you think about here is you illuminate your failures in your mind. So you think about what you said about what have I failed from in the past and what have I learned and where am I now? Write out what you failed at and why you failed. Give it some time, give it a thought. I encourage you to do it. It will make a massive difference to you. You'll be amazed by what you come up with. But then you start looking at, did you have deep enough meaning to your goals in the past? Did you have a strong enough why in terms of why you want to do it? What could you have done differently and what will you do differently now? Then think about, how will you tackle those failures in the future when you're faced with them? How will you learn from the past to help shape a bigger and brighter future? And think about this, failure isn't the end of the road as long as you don't give in. If you still believe in your goals, you can use the failures to push yourself forward, to leverage those past limitations and get to where you need to be. Now, can't mind when you do it, but if you feel like you need to pause and carry out this exercise, do it now. If not, please come back to it and have a go at these. They will make a tremendous difference to allowing you to move forward. As I said, I want you to try something. Do it now, do it at the end. I don't mind, but this is a real quick exercise. Think about those failures in your mind. Write out what you failed at and why. Did you have deep enough meaning in your goals in the past? What could you have done differently? How will you tackle those failures? And how will you learn to shape a bigger and brighter future? As I said, it's not the end of the road unless you let it be. Don't give up. So do this exercise, come back to it at the end, pause it. I don't mind. And when you've done this exercise, if there's any results that you want to share, any questions you want to ask, anything you want to talk about in terms of how I now use this, please message me. Please let me know because I'm always happy to help. Fifth step, revisit your goals. This can be a nice add-on to what we just talked about here. Are your goals or were your goals clear and concrete in the past? Did you set them in a smart way? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound? Revisit your past goals and just how clear you are with these goals. And were they precise and exact? Did you visualize them? One of the things I always talk to people about doing is, can you visualize being successful in your goals? What kind of person do you have to become? What kind of strategy do you put in place? What things do you do? When you visualize that on a regular basis, you start to do it. It starts to become part of your DNA. And guess what? It comes out. That's when you start to see success, but it's all about learning. Sometimes failure from any results and from not setting goals in the right way, and that sets you up not to do your best. So not only must we set goals in the right way, but we must track and analyze them on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis. So here's my goal. Here's where I am. Here's where I want to get to. What progress am I making? You can measure it. You can learn from it. And you can decide whether you need to give yourself longer, if you're moving quicker than you thought. But the idea is keep measuring what you do. And then to recover from failure, revisit your goals and redefine them. Sometimes the goals you set to begin with maybe need an adjustment. Don't chop and change them too regularly because then you're never going to be able to focus. But if you are moving in a different direction, if you find things are happening for you in a different way, make an adjustment. But spend the time necessary to analyze and adjust where you need to. Yeah? And step 6, you may have heard this before, but create a massive action plan, a map, if you will. When you take your goals and lay out a plan as to how you're going to achieve them, think about what you're going to do in the face of failure next time it rears its ugly head. Then you start to prepare, you look for roadblocks, you look for barriers. So here's my path to success, but here's the things that could stop me. How can I navigate past them? When you have a massive action plan, you have a systematic way of achieving the goals that you set for yourself. Once you come to that realization that those goals won't be simple to achieve, you can approach things with a more long-term frame of mind. It's not going to happen overnight, click of the fingers. It's going to be step by step by step, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Set goals in those areas and you're able to measure that success. So you can see how long it's taken to get from one area to another. And when you're doing that, it allows you to celebrate each of those successes. That creates a growth mindset. So set out a solid action plan. If you've got one, great, but go back and revisit it. If you've got an action plan, but you don't think it's strong enough, go back, revisit it, redo it now. Okay. This is about learning. This is about doing, but this is about taking massive action. Okay. Thank you. So, as I said, carry out those exercises. If there's anything you'd like to ask, message me, keith@yoursuccesssolutions.com. You can check me out on my website. You can message me there as well. But carry out those exercises. Let me know how you get on. Enjoy every success, but also enjoy and embrace every failure because it's taking you a step closer to where you want to be. Thank you and all the best.